Hello, thanks for joining me for this Met Office 10-day trend. If you are fed up with what's been a very wet May so far, then feel free to let out a little cheer, because next week does finally look a lot more settled weather-wise and an awful lot drier. There is a large however coming though, because before we get there, we have more very wet and very windy weather to contend with over the next few days. A wet and windy spell coming from, yes, you guessed it, an area of low pressure, a deep area of low pressure. Look at that bullseye for Friday sitting across the UK, a chart more typical of October or November. Now let's just rewind the clock, because it's interesting to see how this low is developing. At the time I'm recording this on Wednesday, the low is intensifying out in the Atlantic, starting off as a fairly innocuous area of low pressure, but it's going to interact with the jet stream. Now the jet stream has been south shifted, further south than normal for most of May. That's why the weather's been so wet and windy. And it's still there, it's still down to the south, and this low is actually coming up from the south, and it's as it crosses the jet stream during Wednesday that it's intensifying, changing from an area of low pressure of around about 1,000 millibars or hectopascals and dropping down to 980, an unusually deep area of low pressure for this time of year. And it's that interaction with the jet stream that really just develops that low, explosive cyclogenesis. Now, as we go through Thursday and into Friday, the low actually detaches itself a little bit from the jet stream, but it's already been wound up by then, so it is going to bring a spell of wet and windy weather across the UK. Let's deal with the rain first of all. Bands of heavy rain, particularly close to the low centre, where they'll be fairly slow moving. So it's for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales, where we're probably likely to see the heaviest rain, especially over hills and mountains. That could cause some problems after what has been a very wet May so far. As for the winds, well, the strongest winds will be on the southern flank of the area of low pressure. So it's further south across Wales and southern England, particularly South Wales, where we have a wind warning in place. Gusts of 50 miles an hour around coast and hills, maybe for a time on Thursday night and Friday, gusts of 60 miles an hour. Now, those kind of winds wouldn't be such an issue in October or November, but the trees are in full leaf now, of course, and there are more temporary structures around because of the COVID restrictions. So there is a chance of disruption, increased chance of disruption from those gusty winds during Thursday and Friday. So we have that yellow warning in place. For details of that warning, visit the website or the app. But suffice to say that Thursday and Friday it turns very windy with further wet weather for pretty much all parts of the UK. After that, it becomes drier, right? Well, not just yet. That low pressure does slip away into the North Sea on Saturday, and we do have a few little bumps in the isobars suggesting a brief ridge of high pressure. So Saturday does look a lot drier, still some showers close to the low across the east. But look at this, another low then swings in during Sunday. This one perhaps not as intense, the isobars not as close together, but it will still bring further wet and windy weather across much of the UK by the end of Sunday. And again, it's been a very wet month, so further rain on top of what falls on Thursday and Friday could cause a few issues. That low pressure system isn't as intense as the one that's arriving over the next couple of days, because it's somewhat detached from the jet stream, but we are starting to see a shift in the jet stream pattern. It's still pushing to the south of the UK at this stage, but if we head upstream, notice it is heading further north up towards Greenland, and this amplification, that's what we call it, as the jet stream develops these bigger waves, well, that becomes more accentuated as we go into the early part of next week, and that amplification of the jet stream will allow this area of high pressure to nudge closer. Now, it's still not there on Monday, but it is expected to move in some form or other as we go through next week. So staying showery through Monday, certainly, but beyond that, this chart shows that we are expecting that high pressure to build. Red and orange is high pressure, blue is low pressure, and the dates going forward here along the bottom. So for the next 5 days, we've got a ridge with us on Wednesday, but for the next 5 days, it's 100% blue, 100% low pressure across the UK as we've seen. But after that, notice the red and orange blocks take control, and actually by the end of next week it's 80% likely that high pressure will be across the UK. Now that's promising if you fancy drier weather, but how confident are we that high pressure is going to move in? Well, what we can do is look back at the previous model runs for the pressure sequence, pressure regimes, and actually they're pretty similar. So the previous two computer model runs are also showing the same trend, that through Tuesday or Wednesday next week, high pressure will move in and then stick around towards the end of the month. Another way of showing confidence, if you like, in a weather forecast, or how much we believe in it, is showing the confidence index. Now this graph here is showing that, the green line being the average confidence that you can see there going forward in time. So from 100% confidence, or 1, down to much lower confidence, the further you are ahead. That's natural with weather forecasting. Now interestingly, the red line shows the current projection for this forecast at the moment, and actually it shows lower than usual confidence for the next couple of days. Now that is because that low pressure system is developing out in the Atlantic and a lot has got to happen. So in terms of the exact position of the low and the strength of the wind, because the system is highly energized, then confidence is a little lower than usual. But beyond that, notice it's pretty much all green, suggesting that confidence, or how much we believe in the forecast, is higher than usual, and that goes into next week as well when we have higher pressure moving in. Now, we talk about high pressure moving in, and yes, we're pretty happy that that's going to happen to bring some drier weather. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be particularly warm. Now this is the temperature trend through next week. I've picked Leicester here, but I could have picked almost anywhere across the UK. And this graph is showing the temperature. Again, the dates there going forwards. The red blobs, incidentally, I was called out the other week for calling these blobs. I don't know what else they are. If you've got any other suggestions, then you can put them in the comments. But the red blobs showing the maximum temperatures here, and this red line is the average temperature. Now going forward, you can see the next few days with the wet and windy weather, it's generally below average. But even next week, as high pressure moves in, those blobs are still generally below the average line. So we're not looking at a big jump in temperatures by day or by night as well. So still the potential for some chilly nights as we head towards June. But with higher pressure moving in, it does finally look like we should see some drier weather. Not saying it'll be completely dry, still the potential for some showers, particularly in the east. But generally from next week, it looks like we should see more reliable spells of sunshine. Now, I said not particularly warm, but of course it will be warmer than it has been, and the sun is strong at this time of year, so it will feel quite warm when the sun is out. But I'm just flagging, we're not expecting those big jumps in temperatures. Plenty to talk about then, plenty going on over the next week or so. Don't forget that weather warning in place. Make sure you stay up to date with the very latest developments by following the Met Office on social media.